Hi everyone, thanks for dropping by. My name's Gareth Hutchinson. I'm the course leader for computer animation here at University of South Wales.
And my name's Philip Duncan. I'm a lecturer in computer animation here on the course.
And welcome to this deep dive open day presentation where we'll walk you through various aspects of the course here at the university.
And so in part one, we're going to explore specialization and collaboration, which are a big focus for us on the course here.
Yeah, so initially we'll talk to you about the different specialist pathways that are open to students within the area of CG art and animation.
And then we'll also look at collaboration, which is then later on in the course, working as a team and focusing on those specializations.
So I hope you enjoy these series of presentations, and let's get on with the show. Okay, so the best way to actually talk to you about what the course is to show you that. So this is a compilation of work from the course for about the last 5 years or so that we shall play out and talk over for speed. What you'll really notice in here is the range of work we get involved with. You'll see students in here focusing on animation, other students focusing on the art side of things, so an animator here, an artist here, for example. Other students focusing on more technical kind of TD work, so somebody here working with Houdini, someone else here, doing a creature run cycle, more creature work. So you'll see a range of work between characters and creatures. You'll see some people just being an artist, others focusing on animation. And then within that, you'll also see evidence of films, short films, VFX sequences like this, games projects, kids TV looking things, things of different stylistic ranges, things that look like games projects, some things that are more towards realism, other things like this that are more towards kind of toony areas. So we embrace all of that stuff. What we really like is that students are kind of exploring what options they might, optional pathways they might go down in the first year, and specialising in something that points towards a job role, finding out what they're good at, finding out what they really love, what they really enjoy, and following those kind of paths down. That's the crux of it, Phil, I think, isn't it? It's like trying to help kids find out what they're good at and what they enjoy.
And I think we're more of what the title says. We're not just computer animation, as you can see from all of this. We're a bit of everything. Things that you might not even be aware of yet. You might find on this course.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a specialist area you might fall in love with, but you don't know until you get on the course and you have a little bit of play with all these areas, which we'll introduce you to over the 3 years.
Yeah, totally. Like we had that idea a few years back to change the title of the course to 3D CG art and animation, didn't we? So that gives you the sense of, it's art and animation are the two things we're focusing on mainly. In terms of the students every year, it kind of splits 50-50. Get about half the course will go on to specialise as animators, and half the course will go on to specialise as artists. And we'll get a few kind of riggers and TDs that we'll talk about with some example show reels in between those two things. But really, you can be doing anything with us between, the whole range of the world of film, TV, games, VFX, kids TV, like the whole thing. We don't get people to specialize in that way. We like people to kind of experience as much of that as possible. This is a nice little fun bit of a retro piece now. When you come along to a normal day, open day, we say, oh, this is a typical day for students at the faculty. So this is the faculty here. These are students walking in from their accommodation, which is just across the road, just on the other side of the street. There's a large student kind of tower block, student halls. They're just getting ready for their lectures, and then we've all seen Jurassic World, Jurassic Park stuff, and we know something's going to go on here. That's a good example of students having fun with this subject. That if you let CG students kind of have free rein to do what they want, they're going to make a T-Rex come and smash through the building and eat all their mates. A really good example of a nice collaboration between computer animation students and VFX students. So CG students here are modelling, texturing, rigging and animating the T-Rex. And then we're working with our VFX course then. So the VFX students are really getting involved with acquisition, with filming here. Really getting involved with roto and tracking and all the kind of VFX stuff, helping us light match and all that kind of thing. Like, how do we make sure that the T-Rex really looks like it's in that shot? Yeah, because it was never behind that spiral staircase. It never went behind that pillar. It never stood on that floor, obviously. It's not real. Yeah, we know that. So all those kind of techniques of like how we explore that. We actually work with another course to really get our CG stuff to sit nicely within live action plates. And we do that with lots of other courses. What's kind of fun about this is to track it. Like I said, it's a retro piece, right? So it's from 2010. So we're talking about it's going on for 11 or 12 years old now. It's quite interesting as a bit of a callback to where some of the students who worked on that are now, right? It was one of the early days, really successful kind of VFX pieces that we did. What's really interesting is this, how many hits it's got on YouTube, yeah? So you can really see like how some of this stuff can really travel, you know, how it can really be a calling card out there, how it can get a lot of attention out there as well, right? It's just really interesting in that kind of way. 60 million plus hits. I think it's more like 65 million now. So in a few more hits time, we're going to have to have like a where are they now of the T-Rex, you know, project. They got 100 million hits or something. This one is a nice example of facilities, kind of, you know, what you can expect to see from the faculty. So here we are again at the faculty. You see things in here to do with the mocap suites we have. You see the 4 courses there within the animation and games part of the faculty. You can see our mocap suite there. You can see people doing things with green screen, VR and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of equipment that you have around you, master classes, loads of opportunities. What's really nice, we were talking earlier, Phil, weren't we, about like the number of courses we have in the faculty, and I think you were saying this, the largest creative industries faculty in, well, certainly in Wales, and one of the largest ones in the UK as well, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, and you'll find it all under one roof as well. So it's all games, animation, drama, illustration,
music
graphics. We're all under, and so we're all working on a number of different projects together. That's great.
And that's the key theme, really. The key kind of USP, I think, of studying with us at the Uni South Wales. One of them is that we can do this collaboration because we have so many of these interrelated courses that can all work together, right? So we're really focused on that, and we're a really key driver in that way in computer animation, because as you've seen, our stuff fits into games and VFX and traditional animation. You know, all that stuff can all kind of fit together. So we're always looking for collaborators from computer animation. So we have all these courses around us in the faculty. We're in a department now of kind of these 4 called animation and games. We were in a previous configuration with the VFX and motion graphics course. Now that's with film, but we're on the same we're on the same floor, just around the corridor from those guys. And we have MA courses as well. So we really like when students from all these courses are working together on big projects that you'll see as we go through this. We also, so you get a sense of like how much we go fishing for this kind of stuff. We also organize a meetup group that's become like an online thing in recent years. So it has about 900 members in the Facebook group now. As you can see there, when pandemic permitting, we were kind of meeting up in the cinema at the faculty, and this is really again to encourage students from all the different courses around us in the faculty to all talk about projects that they might work on and pitch those to each other and network and form teams and all that kind of stuff, right? It's really cool. So collaboration is something we're really keen on. What also we've talked about already is specialization. So we've said within the course that we have these strands that students specialize in, that are industry role specific strands. Yeah, so our whole take is helping people to find out what they're good at, find out what you love doing, find out what you're good at as well, and then point you towards a specialist strand where you can develop specific skills in that area that lead towards employment. Yeah, our whole thing is, you know, rather than be a jack of all trades and a master of none, we want people to kind of master aspects of what they do, because that's the best way to be employed by industry, doing quite specific things quite often. So as an animated strand, you can see in this, often we're mentioning characters and creatures, which is a bit of a sort of an underpinning focus of the course. Yeah, we're a character and creature focused course principally. So we have an animated strand where, you know, we'll happily study everything from realistic creature animation to toony kids TV or toony casual game stuff, right? We flip back and forth between the toony and the realistic. We'll do the same on the artist strand. So things can be stylized or they can be hyper real, or yeah, we don't mind which side of that a student wants to go towards. Often we'll find, Phil, isn't it, it's the case that you know, a student will be better at one side of that than another. You know, you'll have certain students who are better at the toony stuff, certain students who are better at the realistic end of things. Yeah, it's not all.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll guide them as well. We'll work with them. Sometimes they may not see it themselves, so we can help guide them and say, well, look, you know, you're getting better marks in this, or we found that you kind of engage so much more in this. And so, yeah, so we can then help, especially through the first year of kind of helping them make those decisions then when they get into sort of the sort of start to focus on an area they like.
Yeah. Yeah, so animators and artists, the main kind of, we could say, rather than perhaps a 50-50 split, perhaps this would be a 45-45 split, and then perhaps maybe, a little handful of students, 1 or 2 students, end up as kind of TDs and generalists going through the course. Okay, so we'll show you some examples of that as we go through, I think. In as much as we do this specialization, we still want students to come together. Perhaps there's a sense of us getting students to specialize for the first year and a half on the course. Halfway through the course into the second year, we start putting students back together almost into teams into the second year. So you get a chance to do your own personal projects, but you also have to do a collab project. And then in the third year as well, also there's an onus to do a certain amount of a major project as a collaboration. Yeah, so there's a sense of like first year and a half, we're encouraging people to specialize, and then for the second year and a half you take those specialist skills and you put those together in large teams, because we want students clustering around cool CG short films or commercial project or VFX sequence or game thing. Yeah, we want that as the end goal, so that people are kind of mimicking industry. Yes, it's a sense of doing like a work simulation. Yeah, you're sort of training for what it's going to be like when you're out there. The best way to do that is to form as a team around something. Yeah, the most realistic way to do that. So this is an example of a student who's gone down the animation track.
Yeah, this is Ruben, who graduated probably about 2 years ago now, and so this is a typical show reel of a student who's focused then in the third year on the animation strand. So what would have happened with Ruben in the first year? He would have had the introduction to sort of CG, so modeling, animation, rigging, some lighting, some characters and animal performances. Then moving on into the second year, starting to look into playing with Unreal and game engine animations, animating for visual effects, and then, as Gareth said, then more focusing then in the end of the second year, especially then leading into the third year, where they can start to perform and especially hone those animation skills, the principles that he's been learning over the first 2 years, especially going down the character performance route and the performance and acting, which then landed him a job at Blue Zoo now. So Ruben is now a character animator into Blue Zoo industry.
And a great example of somebody who's on that Toonie path. Yeah, that's what we found out with Ruben is he was great at the Toonie stuff.
Yeah.
He was good at the acting stuff. He's good at the performance stuff. So he'll do a bit less like realistic kind of creature work. Yeah, because he's found out what type of animator he is. Regardless of whether he's an animator or artist, it can be even more finely tuned than that. That you can find out like you want to be your skills are in body mechanics and you're really into game stuff, and you can go down that kind of pathway. So here's the opposite side of that coin. Yeah, so somebody has found out in the first year of the course that they were better at the art stuff than they were at the animation stuff. So in the first year you get to alternate back and forth between those two things and try both sides of that stuff out. This student's found out like whenever he goes anywhere near modeling and texturing, that's better for him and he enjoys that more, whatever that decision was, than the animation side of it. So actually this student worked very closely with the last student. These were classmates. So you can see here now, this is how we get students to collaborate. In the simplest terms, we'll buddy students up on things. So the student here is modeling and texturing the T-Rex and this other stuff that he's made, and then in collab opportunity projects, he'd be working with animators then who will rig and animate those things. This student was great at the Toonie stuff, great at creature work, character work, hard surface, realistic, Toonie, like the whole thing. He was a really, really strong student. Great modeling skills, great sculpting skills with things like ZBrush and Mudbox, great texturing skills with probably Substance Painter in this case, and really strong artistically. I think that's one of the key things. A strong student with us will have come from quite an artistic background. They'll be good at drawing. They'll be good if you gave them a bit of clay to sculpt that, probably do a half decent job. It's that kind of person we really enjoy working with. We know then we're taking that sort of student and we're essentially like digitizing those traditional art and design skills. This student now I think is at Sumo Digital, I think, isn't it? So he did a little bit of teaching with us for about a month, I think, and then he was too good to hang on to, so he got a job offer from games industry and off he went. And this is then that in-between strand I was talking about, that most of the students will specialize as animators and artists. All our animators we get to rig for the first year and a half, and a little bit gone into second year as well. So, most animators will have a good understanding of rigging. Some people who are on that kind of strand, on that sort of animation strand, will find out they're much better at rigging and technical stuff than even they were at animation. So this is a student who was a little like that.
So what we usually say about the TD role, which is technical director, this is an area where it's almost where technical ability meets creative ability. So it's usually they're a little bit creative, but maybe they might be more technical. So getting into the rigging side of things, it starts to kind of come under grooming, which is like fur and hair. Getting into lighting, getting into effects, and all those elements that kind of maybe being the creative animator or creative modeler isn't where they kind of found their foot, but something a little bit more technical is where they reside a little bit more. And the one thing I usually say about the technical area, it's usually students don't come onto the course knowing they want to be technical, sort of technical animators or technical directors at this point. It's probably usually as the second year usually progresses, moving into the third year, that's where they find that there's an area other than animation, other than modeling, that kind of fits them a little bit better. They found that they really enjoyed rigging. So rigging then is like the element of putting control into the mesh. So the mesh has been modeled by a modeler. Then a rigger would then put the joints in the mesh, and then would then attach controllers so the joints can move, almost like a skeleton.
It's kind of like how would you know you were good at this until you do it, innit? So it'd be impossible to know that, wouldn't it? You know what I mean?
That's
so
it,
you really do find out as it goes along.
So a lot of students, absolutely. A lot of students don't know they like this until they like it, you know. So we usually have a number of students by the end of the third year who are focusing more on being a TD, a bit more of a rigger. Or they may go into, like I said, groom, which might be fur and effects, looking at Houdini, as Gareth mentioned in the show reel, which is starting to become a 3D sort of particle. So it might be fire and explosions and dust and buildings collapsing. Again, that might not be what you came onto the course to do. And by the end of the course, you come out as something you didn't really know much about. But that's, again, what the course will show you and guide you through. And we touch on them, and then what you find that you really enjoy will be an area you specialize in, for example. So it can be, you know, rather than animation and art, it might be something a little bit more like lighting. So they're all career prospects as well, it should be added, that lighting and groom and rigging, they're all career paths then that a good number of our students have gone towards and now in industry as.
Super employable ones, actually. I mean, this guy was up in London VFX industry, frame store and MBC and that kind of stuff. So, you know, there's almost a skills gap for the tech area stuff, right? So, you know, when we get students who are strong in that area, we kind of, you know, we're like, go towards that. You know, there's good employment in that if you get as good as that student, for example. Also, we allow students to do this kind of stuff. So, you know, the course has been going for a number of years now, 20 plus years old as a course. So we're happy enough to be flexible. You know, we know what our kind of main pathways are and what our main strengths are, but when we get a student coming along who wants to kind of mix it up a little bit, like the student, we're happy to allow people to go forward as a generalist. There's a bit of a sense in industry that generalists are welcomed as well. There's some companies in industry now, in the VFX industry, saying, oh yeah, you know, it's good to be a generalist, right? I think it depends what we mean by that. I would say like a focused generalist, where, you know, like I was saying, our animators rig, so that would be you've got a primary skill and a secondary skill, you know, so you might have a primary, secondary, tertiary skill. For me, an artist is like, you know, modeling and texturing is almost like primary, and you could argue texturing is more important almost, you know, but there's a sense of like a combined set of skills kind of working together. So this set of skills where there's rigging and animation and modeling and texturing all kind of working together might be a sense of like it's almost a kind of crossing over job roles. It's crossing the streams in the Ghostbusters term. But it fits certain parts of the industry, like smaller studios will welcome this. A smaller studio that doesn't have a big CG team would welcome somebody who's got multiple skills. So we'll just explain that to students. You're doing the slightly more scattergun approach with this kind of thing. This student was great at concept art as well. Some students will say to us, I just want to do that, you know, I want to get into my third year and I want to keep all those options open. And they'll understand they makes them a bit less specialist, but it's, you know, it's a sense of like it's a personal thing for them. So you have that option as well.
So this is more about specializing almost as a director, you know. So it's an area that maybe a number of our third years you know, in their third year know that they would like to be a director of a short CG film. So in this case, we had MJ, who had a film idea that she knew she wanted to make. And again, what we kind of always encourage on this course is never to really just try and do too much, try and do everything. Again, as we've already mentioned, it's all about specialization. So in this case, Emma knew she wanted to make a small film. So then it was up to her then to start to pitch this idea to her fellow cohorts on the course. and start recruiting a team essentially. So almost like making a mini film in industry. So what she did here then was started to recruit a number of animators and artists, also looking at maybe a rigger or two, maybe looking at a lighting artist as well that she'd need, somebody to help with the rendering process. Because what this is all about then is just about not focusing too much on, trying to do too much. And again, there might be some courses out there that let you do everything. Whereas what we want to do is just get you to focus at the thing that you're really good at. Build a team. So again, collaboration being that buzzword for us again. And then, reflected on what industry practices and industry pipelines. So, the sense of modeling needs to come first, then it needs to lead into rigging, then into animation, then into rendering or lighting and rendering. So again, industry know that these are really valuable tips for an animator or a director or a modeler, that they've worked in a collaboration team before and know sometimes the pitfalls and know the good things that work and things can be the things that kind of sometimes trip them up. So this is again an area that we like students to focus on, but building a team around it. And then this can bleed into the second year then as well, so that then we'll get second years who will also help animate and model on it as well. So they're learning from the third years as well. So the third years can help mentor and tutor into their animations and modeling elements as well. So that feeds through into that final output as well.
What's great about this kind of thing,
it's what industry can.
I was going to say, what's great about this kind of thing is, that sense of being a visual artist on a course like this as well. That you're trying to develop skills. Perhaps you want to do a course like this to get into employment into the industry, right? And great, and we want that as well. It's a real strong focus of ours. But also, you come into us with a kind of artistic vision. So these students come up with these film ideas by themselves. They're entirely motivated by the students. So it's a very personal piece. Actually, it's about mental health. So it's called Reach Out. And the metaphor is that the wall is a mental health problem, and the blue guy tries to solve that problem by himself, tries to get over it by himself. And what he learns by this point in the end is he needs to reach out to other people for help getting over this insurmountable problem that he has in his life. So a very personal piece of work from a little team of students who are guiding this. And it brings in all their kind of artistic sensibilities. They experience then all kinds of things to do with filmmaking and storyboarding and planning and previs and all that other stuff, rather than the stuff that's just focused on animation or modeling and texturing stuff. All the stuff that exists around us in a framework like that. And again, it's a cracking piece of work that can travel into festivals and pick up awards for stuff and all that kind of thing. That student who directed that now is at Paint and Practice. We'll see some mention of those in a bit, who made the His Dark Materials series for BBC and HBO last year. So she went straight from making that film straight into the previs department in Cardiff on a HBO TV series. So nice little career starting thing there. I'll click through some of these quite quickly just for time. So as well as short film collaborations, we also encourage games collaborations. This is an example from a few years back now. This is a collaboration that happened entirely within the computer animation course. So it's before we had a merger with another university nearby, with Newport University, and became University of South Wales. And before we merged with some of the games courses we had now and developed some of the games courses we have now. So whenever we wanted to do a game type project, we'd always do it like just within the one course, So it would take a student like this who would get under the skin of Unreal Engine in this case. Working with other students to pull a whole game together. What happens now with this kind of thing is, well, as time has moved on, we have games projects now. In our second year, we have a game project where everyone gets introduced to how you get animation and art implemented into a game engine, right? So everyone has that experience for like a little short taster project that's 6 weeks long, and then you decide whether to go forward and do more of that kind of work. If you are doing more of that kind of work, well, now we have a games design course. After the merger, we also have a games art course after the merger. So we have 3 courses now that can cluster around a project like this, right? So you'll see lots more examples of that kind of thing on our YouTube channel of students, creating some really impressive, finished, playable games. This one is kind of a demo of a level, right? But there's games that have gone to market, that have been kind of developed on these courses. This one then is on the VFX side of that. So
yeah, very similar then to MJ's short film. This is a perfect example of a third year wanting to be a film director and had an idea, but instead of it being all CG, he knew he wanted to make it a bit more live action. He knew he wanted to go into the visual effects industry, so he wanted to make a live action short film. So he made a little story about a guy who goes off to Brecon to look for these rumored dinosaurs, and then finds this beast of Brecon. But what this one's really good for is just, as we talked about collaboration and events and collaborating within the faculty. So this is a really faculty-wide project here in terms of this actor in this piece is from the drama course. So he auditioned and Kieran took him on as an actor. Then we also worked very closely with the VFX course, who we've worked with over the years. So they did all the VFX elements, because then rather than our students focusing on areas they don't really know enough about and spending more time eating into the time where they could be a bit more productive. So using the guys, so again, in terms of industry pipeline, it's exactly mirroring what industry do, so it's that from, going off, filming, shooting your plates, then in terms of animating and tracking, and then from that, then lighting and compositing and rendering. So again, it's just using the pipeline and workflow from industry to reflect, what industry practices are that we're doing in our third year, and especially within collaboration courses. And again, it's a brilliant pipeline. So rather than trying to learn something over the short time you've got to make this film, you just focus and specialize on the stuff you know what to do, and then you work with these visual effects guys and actors. So again, it's just a really, really successful project of what you can do when you work with the sort of experts in their fields in the university.
It's funny how popular dinosaurs became, isn't it? Like after that T-Rex project, this is perhaps about 3 or 4 years ago now. So dinosaurs kept cropping up. 2D dinosaurs, realistic dinosaurs. We'd almost roll our eyes when it was another dinosaur project. But ultimately, we'll go with the things the students think are fun to do. I mean, a project like this is going to be such a good way of getting into the VFX industry. If you've modeled or textured or rigged or animated a shot as good as that, the VFX industry are going to want to talk to you, right? They absolutely are. So that's the whole thing, is like trying to cluster students together around these things, trying to get students to specialize so they become student experts as much as possible, and then trying to get them to do things that kind of feel like industry work. So when they go talk to industry, there's a sense of like they're working in kind of a similar way. This is another example of a VFX collaboration by a Spanish student who was with us last year, year before. Year before last. Who wanted to make this Star Wars lore piece of work, focusing on the droids. So actually, he'd come to us on an exchange in the second year, and then he enjoyed it so much he stayed on in his third year. He pulled out of his course in Barcelona and he came to study with us. But the collaboration he set up was really interesting because it was between University of South Wales and some of his former classmates in Barcelona. So what he noticed was in USW we're really good at character work and creature work, CG modeling, characters and creatures and animating those things. And he noticed that on his course in Barcelona, that was a little bit more focused on effects. So those guys did kind of sand particles here, the kind of like the real CG effects work, where also some of the VFX work that's gone on in this, So he built a team from both sides, and they worked cross collaboration between Wales and between Cardiff and Barcelona. It's amazing. So I mean, again, look at the quality of this. This is the kind of thing we're always pushing for. It's like highest quality possible. Actually, this student got involved with motion capture. The student who directed this was an artist, but he's involved in so many different kind of pieces of this that he really helped pull it all together. He's using a lot of different techniques. Even the person doing the sound recording of the voice there is a former student, right? So it's a really interesting piece of work that, again, is super high quality, that almost doesn't look like student work. So that's what we're really pushing for, is student work that looks like industry work, right? We're really happy with that.